Well, it has been 40 days now since Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and over the last few days, horrifying images have emerged of just what this war is costing civilian lives. Pictures of hundreds of dead bodies on the streets that have emerged, with President Zelensky calling it a genocide. Certainly, some Western countries already saying that this amounts to war crimes. The brutality of this war now clearly playing out as it completes 40 days. Joining us now on NDTV is Germany's ambassador to India, Mr. Walter J. Lindner, for more on what the West can do and indeed the situation that India finds itself in, with Western allies on one hand and its own position on Russia on the other. Ambassador Lindner, thank you very much for speaking to us. How do you see these very graphic and horrifying images that have come out of Ukraine over the last couple of days? Would Germany say that this would constitute a war crime?
Well, Niti, thank you for having me in the program. It's really, if you see what the images you see from Bucha, it's almost unbearable. It's very painful, and of course, if this is what's the truth, then this is a war crime, because there were civilians, children even among them. So these atrocities are just not bearable. Now, I see that the Russian side is saying this is not true. These are actors who pretend to be dead, and you know, of course, in a war like this is also a war of propaganda measures on both sides. So, as a spectator, what measures do you have to see whether this is true or not? I would say, if you see from the Russian side, this has been a war also with lies. It has started in the beginning of saying Putin, well, we are not there to invade, we are just there for maneuvers. Then he invaded. Then he said, we do this to liberate the Russian-speaking people. And he came and he is bombarding Russian-speaking, Ukrainian-speaking and Hindi-speaking and other people. Then he said, we come for a peacekeeping mission. Also not true.
Right. But would you say then that you have very little faith in that first step diplomatically that was taken last week, where Russia said that it was not going to be continuing military ops, or it would scale back its military operations around Kyiv and another key city? Are you saying that on the ground that's really not playing out?
Well, what we see is that there might be a reduction in the area of Kyiv, but there's a massive culmination of troops, so he just shifted them. It's not he withdraw them, but he shifted them. Maybe because they were losing ground around Kiev, and now they're shifting them to other areas. Mariupol in the south, and in the north, of course, the Donbas area. So if this is the shifting, then it would be another lie that he's saying we're reducing our troops, but in fact they are just regrouping it to have an even more massive attack than in other areas. As you said in the beginning, it's the day 40 of these bombardments and of dying and of killing. And, it's incredible that this man is not stopping it. There's just one man who can stop it. It's him, and Lavrov is just his right hand.
So what more can the West do in terms of sanctions and more action against Russia? What is there left to do?
I mean, we have seen the atrocities in these videos, and there were many of same images in Bucha. So this, of course, calls out for even more sanctions. So we in Germany have the 5th package of sanctions, and with all probability, I'm saying again, it's a presumed massacre committed by Russian soldiers, presumed, because we have to see an investigation, but all probability, everything, international institutions, journalists who are there, even German journalists and other international journalists witness the same thing. So they say this is the source for this are Russian soldiers running amok. So this has to have consequences, and it just shows the brutality of this war. Whatever one can say, for reasons he came there, this brutality and the length of it is just unheard of. In the year 2022, where we thought we can solve things through negotiations and through talks, comes a president who attacks brutally his neighbor. So this is in the 40th days. It doesn't make it one day better.
Absolutely. Could I ask you though, again, when it comes to sanctions and energy in particular, now, let's face it, yes, the West has come together and imposed unprecedented sanctions on Russia. But the fact is that where it would really hurt Russia would be oil and gas. And Germany, for example, is very dependent on oil and gas from Russia and has said that it would gradually phase this out. It can't be done in one fell swoop. Tell me about that and the fact that, there are some countries that seem to be preaching to countries like India, which is also buying Russian oil, about whether this actually amounts to supporting a murderous regime. How would you see it?
Yeah, I mean, whoever talks from my side, from the German side to the Indian side, we're never preaching, we're not preaching, not teaching. So we're just transmitting our point of view. And this is true. There's no denying that we are depending, many countries in Europe depended in the last 10 years too much of Russian oil, gas, and coal. Maybe because we just didn't think that Putin would one day attack brutally a neighbor and disrespects all the international treaties and the bilateral treaties and the UN Charter. Maybe there were misjudgments, and we shouldn't have gone in such a dependency. Now, since the war broke out 40 days ago, we have already said we are reducing massively our dependence there. And so in the oil sector, we came down from 30% to almost 15%. In the coal, we will be, by the end of the summer, we will have zero coal from the Russians. And oil will be, by the end of the year, zero. So gas takes a little bit longer, but the point is you can't do this just overnight if you don't want to have a breakdown of a society or of economic
So then how
system.
do you see India stepping up? You're scaling back on purchases of Russian oil, but India is doing the opposite. It's scaling up its purchases. So how does Germany see that?
We have said to the Indian side, of course, we would have loved to see you in our camp when there was the voting processes, but as we said, we are not preaching, not teaching. So every country has its own neighborhood and its own past and its own tradition and its own dependencies. So there's no preaching there. We just wanted to see that this war stops, and our belief is with the sanctions, it's the best way to stop this war. If there are other means that politicians talk to Putin, talk sense into him, do it, but he will not listen, I guess. So when we have the sanctions and we think this is the best way to put sense into him and to make him stop the war, then of course the efficiency is best if many countries at least don't counteract or at least don't backfill these sanctions. And this is our point of view, which we transmitted, not only us, but many other Western countries to the Indian side. And as I said, we reducing, and we all know that the Indian imports of Russian oil and coal is very, very small and not very big. And we try to get down to zero as soon as possible.
Right. Finally, Ambassador, do you think India could be a mediator in this? I mean, obviously, we do still have a very good relationship with Russia. The Russian foreign minister was here and was the only foreign dignitary in recent weeks who actually got to meet Prime Minister Modi. The Ukrainian foreign minister told NDTV, if India can help, that's great. Do you think that India can and should?
Well, they were already mentioning of Turkey, of some Arab countries, even the Pope, so if it's India, the more the better. But, the point is, there's one person who can change this, and sanctions are not a problem, and mediation is not a problem. The problem is Mr. Putin. If he is not willing to stop the war, if he's not willing to sincerely do these negotiations, then no mediator can help much. So whoever could be a mediator should be welcome, yes, but then they have really to have means to make put some pressure on Putin, because Putin is the one. It's not the Ukrainians you have to talk to. It's Putin. He attacked his neighboring country. So whoever can talk sense into this Russian president, I think, is welcome.
Right. Well, thank you, Ambassador Lindner, for your upfront words. As always, thank you for joining us on NDTV today.
Thank you for having me.